So, gonna make a video on first time last 3 days now. I've been eating a lot of meat grilled on the had one Church's chicken tenders over at Church's Chicken, and then I bought some beef over at the Michoacana, legendary, Mexican food. It's like the elegance of like Mexican food. A lot of the more high quality stuff, meats and whatnot. Everybody knows it, right? So it's been years since I've eaten meat or chicken, and I know this from a very long time that reading online saying specifically beef, when you eat beef and good quality beef, there's something about the meat that they did studies on. It actually makes your heart strong, but you can't over proportionally eat it, and you have to eat it sort of in increments. But now I don't know anything about working out. The best people to ask this and know about that information is people that do like pro body lifting. Those are the supreme best people that know that, because to me, my understanding, since you have bodybuilders that are fucking Mr. Olympia, like, man, they you hear stories about them waking up every 3 hours in the middle of the night and drinking a gallon of water and shit, like crazy stuff, and they'll eat proteins and shit. Well, the reason I say this is because I've always believed that all the studies and nutrients of food has already been studied. They have enough equipment and enough scientific research to the basics of what already bodybuilders have already built, that what we know about chicken, beef, and the vegetables and all the different nutrients and what it does to the body and recovery. Because if it's already been commercial for 40 years now, 30 years, imagine with all the technology and stuff they're doing today. But I remember reading this about a couple of years ago, saying that something about beef actually strengthened the physical heart, that made your heart stronger, so it doesn't make it weak. And you have to always have, that's the number one muscle you have to have that is strong, because it pumps the blood to, without that you don't have any nutrients going to or oxygen to any of your body, and that's the primary. The better it is, the better blood you get to your organs and all that great stuff, so that they function like they're supposed to at optimum level of what they were already designed to do. Some people are predestined to kidney failure and liver failures just because, regardless if they never touched a drug, the liver just didn't work at optimal level like some other people. And that's just genetics. But it does work at the best optimal level to what you were born with. So, out of all the meat and all the beans that I've been eating, I do have to say it's a very clean feeling. It's a very clean feeling. Like, I love the Subway Veggie Delights, because I like the fact that whenever you go to Subway, and I gotta pass some gas, when you go to Subway, they get so many bulk of like the green onions, the olives, and the tomatoes, that it gets frozen. So they have to buy it in massive bulks, because then they put it in the little buckets, and and it's cold there. So it's like coming right off the farm, because when you go to a farm, they have to process it. They have the workers take it off, the garden. They put it in a processor. They separate it and send it to stores. By the time it gets to Albertsons and all these like Walmart, it's like already a week old, and it loses like 30% of its nutrient value, even though it doesn't look like it. At a molecular level, microscopic level, it is true. The minute that you pluck that fruit or vegetable from its natural habitat and growth, it immediately starts losing nutrient value. And whenever you same thing with frozen fruit. So obviously it does people, people have their picks and chooses. doesn't matter. Sometimes you eat the healthiest food and you still get diseases, but you're trying to go into the best direction of probability, right? So they have these vegetables and they send them off, and right, they very fresh, good, and it may not matter to some, but I think it does, because you still got the antioxidant levels that are even higher. And over a period of time, that does matter, in my opinion. Over 15 years eating like that, it does matter, in my opinion. So when they come off the truck and they know that this batch is going to go to a frozen unit section, and they'll just dice it up a whole bunch of times and they immediately just freeze it, because it's easier to preserve it, plastic it up, put it on a truck, and ship it. And it preserves the antioxidants, all the great stuff, all the nutrients immediately get frozen. Immediately. So it's preserved better. Even though it's in a plastic bag, when you buy frozen fruit at grocery stores, it's more preserved. So Subway, now I don't know exactly how the distribution center works, but I've seen them with like large plastic bags, and I know that they have probably like a separate units where they go to, they get it delivered from their distributor, then whoever makes it, and they freeze it right away, because they don't want to have to chop it up, or do all that other stuff. So they have machines do it. So immediately when they do that, they freeze it and it's preserved, and they put it into the food, and you get the nutrient value at the highest optimal level, in my opinion. So I can tell that for so long, especially since I've stopped eating all meat together, it's been years. These past 3 days, I eat a lot of meat. It's eating a lot of beans and a lot of those fruits. It's a clean, but I don't know enough about fruits and vegetables to understand what type of foods can give me really high levels of proteins, just like steaks and fajitas. But I don't do a lot of workouts. But I can tell that now that even after the first meal, but now that I've eaten meat, I definitely feel it's like a nitrous. It is. I can feel like in my blood that I have more sort of this like protein. It does feel, but it doesn't feel like a clean. Like when I eat a whole bunch of fruits, I feel like I can build muscle more better. That's what it feels like right now. And but I figured I'd give it a try, and it's been several years. Today I had I had some more, a little bit of fajitas, but I overburnt them on accident, so I only got a little bit of it. And then I had some chicken that was grilled, and then I tried a couple of different, some ribs, some sliced ribs. I don't know what they call them in Spanish, and a couple different, like another meat, another little steak thin, just to kind of, test out the grill, not to let the grill go to waste. And I do have to say, it is cheaper. I spent $50 like 2 days ago, and then I spent like another, I think it was another $12 or $15 on the meat. About $15 I think I was on the meat, which is still pretty expensive because it's only 1 day in the meal. But I had to make the grill, heat up the grill, and that's always a big hassle. But I mean, if I could eat 2 of those, 4 of those Subways probably every day, I would. Because if you drink lots of water with that, you can it's a very clean, because you can feel all the nutrients of all the vegetables and stuff going through your body, and then you get like some milkshakes. But water is a key role, because I think the body has enough equipment, in my opinion. I'm not the expert. I'm not trying to sound confident like I know what I'm talking about, but this is kind of my output on this. Ideas. There's always stuff I can learn. But having that loads of water and having vegetables like that, and then eating beans so that it goes through the stomach to the intestines very smoothly, collecting all those great nutrients, and you have lots of water, it lets the water, I mean, it's like a Wet and Wild, just water, beautiful water, just with minerals just going through the bloodstream, and you don't have any of those pesticides and a lot of this stuff that all the normal foods and that they inject them with and all kinds of stuff. So it's functioning at the best level of how you're built, because everyone's built different. You know, some people are able to retain meat very well, muscle mass, and some people are not. And you know, some people are built for stronger bones and prone to it. Some people can grow beards and some people can't. So, like I said, it's much more of a cleaner whenever, at least because that's always been a big bonus that I was doing before, is I was doing beans afterwards, because it's a liquid. See, when you eat also Subway, it's also a very solid food. So when it's solid, your body has to tend to use energy to break it up, right? It breaks it up, and that's why when people eat a lot of food, they get tired and feel like taking a nap and relaxing, because your body's just like when you're working out, and then an hour later you can't work out as good as you did in the first few sets. Well, that's because, right, the body is working and spinning organ, because the organs are not muscle, they're tissue. Like it's tissue. It's not, the heart's a muscle, but like the lungs, the liver, the kidneys, if you pulled it out, you know, and you cut it in pieces, it's not a muscle. So it has its own functions. And so given the idea that that's, you know, I thought I'd have a discussion with that it is much more of a cleaner high, and I mean a cleaner intake for the body. Everyone's built different. I could eat 4 of them a day. You know, eat 2 of them early in the morning, and maybe about 5 or 6 eat another 2, and eat loads of water, and probably work out. That would really be really good for the body. But when you eat beans, I think afterwards, because there's a lot of minerals and stuff that you don't get in those types of fruits. Now I always put everything on the veggie lights, as much of all the vegetables as I can, and minimize as much as lettuce, because lettuce is more filling than anything else. But I put a little bit on there because I think it's supposed to have some vitamin K, but very small traces amounts of vitamin K, which is a vitamin that isn't very common to my understanding. But when you eat beans, it has minerals and other stuff that I think that the other vegetables don't have. But most of all, it's mushy and very soft. So when you take it into your body doesn't have to strain it and work out so much to do that. So it's easier to come out of your body and digest the system. And over a period of time, over longevity, it's really good as well. Easier to get to the bloodstream. It's healthy. And I think there is something that's very common, from my understanding, that, you know, beans and vegetables is the primary foods that we're supposed to eat. I mean, as human beings, meat came along as a bonus, and, you know, I'm not saying it seems to have worked. It does work better. You can't get any more. You can't get Mr. Olympia without eating beef. That's for sure. And you know, but everyone chooses their own path, you know, with that. So, but you definitely feel like more protein in the blood, and you could lift in how that is. But it's definitely it seems like it's the blood thickening is a lot more thinner when I'm eating those vegetables, and because how well as a human being able to be very hyper receptive to how they physically feel. Like when you eat food and you try to think of your veins, can you feel the veins pop out of your skin just a little bit extra? Like, are you that hypersensitive? Some people are really hypersensitive, some people are not. Same thing like emotional, or being observative, or 20/20 eye vision. You know, could be inheritance of neurological nerves, but it could just be the awareness that you're just more hypersensitive to that, and you pay attention to it, as opposed to, you know, people say, oh, I just feel better. Well, do you feel like maybe there's sort of these nutrients running through your body, or, you know, like a little bit of a plump swell, kind of like right now you can see how the veins sort of pop out because there's lots of minerals and a lot of protein that causes the blood But I've been recently drinking. The only thing I've been drinking is soda, which is very bad. Unfortunately, I've been trying to just. I bought like 4 or 5 liters of soda and shit. Just kind of binging on soda, which is the worst thing, and drinking a little bit of water here and there, but which I never hardly do. But it is. It's better than alcohol. Because I felt like drinking a few days, and I was like, well, it's better than alcohol, for sodas. So, I thought to myself, in these circumstances, that I am going to try to stick to my beans, and I didn't eat any pork. It's something I didn't want to grill and cook, that's for sure. I was thinking about bacon, though. I was thinking about bacon in the morning. Bacon smells very well. It smells very good. The morally understanding of it, well, I know Jesus recommended beef, what I was told, and I've heard this from more than one person. And I know he ate, I think, lamb, my understanding. And lamb was also used as a sacrifice, that you kill a lamb and you wipe the blood and wipe it down to your door. And then if you've also ever heard the biblical sayings and stories where there's big smog of smoke was coming along and a volcano erupted, and if you didn't wipe the blood of a lamb on your door, then this sort of smoke or smog that came killed you. And for those who know the biblical story. But I don't read the Bible, so at least not anymore, and study it like I did. But I do know that fish was a common thing, because it was very nutritional, accessible, and Jesus ate fish. So I don't know what other meats, I don't know what studies have been done, but fish was a meal that Jesus ate for food. What is the idea of eating an animal that is simply only being slaughtered and killed just to put food on your stomach? Right? You pet a dog, you pet a cat, people pet cows, people pet lambs and say, "Aw." People pet these animals that the truth is they go back in their house, or they go to a restaurant, they order a buffet of steak dinner. And morally, I'm not trying to go all down this soft route, right? But that is the idea of it. We are on the top of this food chain in this world, right? Human beings should come first, but it doesn't always work that way. There's plenty of dogs out there that got the royal spot treatment, far beyond than any human being, and for generations human beings have been around. But I think that I was going to say you can look at it a spiritual way as well, for those. But I hope I can find a fruit. Not a fruit, like whatever fruit and vegetable world, being a vegetarian or vegan world and vegetarian world, what of that has the highest level of protein, just like steak dinner? Just like steak fajitas, ribs, like something that sticks really well to the body. But I think in an overall, it's kind of hard to judge, but I don't know what type of machinery they have in the world that has done. I believe that there's enough of it to have been enough studies. They put the fucking nothing but ribs inside what people ate in a blender, and they mush it all up, and then they go to a science lab and they molecularly separate all the different numbers of proteins, and can separate and weigh that and see how much. That's why when you look at a bottle and it says 20 grams, of protein, because that's a very highly accurate estimate to what amount it weighs, to what portions they weigh, because they do that, and that's how they process it. And but I don't know what beans. out there, or other type of, vegan vegetable world, vegetarian world, that has very dense and very strong levels of protein, just like that. But is there something about eating just the fact that consciously you're eating a meat, and something we don't know, we haven't studied about eating fajita steaks and, ribs and chicken, that strengthen the human body, brain and heart, that we don't know, that they're not discussing? Possibly. If it's more value, would I continue probably eating meat? Yeah, probably. I know, but being vegetarian and vegan is definitely a very clean field. Like, at least for me, I think it is. I don't think it can build as clean as a big, thick, strong as muscle, but I don't have a problem eating. The idea it is, you are killing an animal, and at least in an overall picture, it's like when you recycle. Are you doing good to the world that you live in? Are you eating the food that you eat? Where is it coming from? When you buy clothes, are you buying clothes from a place that's so dirt cheap that, some little kids that are 9, 10, 11 years old in China in sweatshops getting paid 3 cents a day so that I can go and wear clothes and look fashionable and wear the shirt? And a lot of people do this for a lot of suffering that goes in it. Or would you rather buy from a very good source, more, consciously, morally, and what is it called? Spiritual? I don't know. It's hard to say what spirituality is sometimes, because people say, "Oh, that's the spirit," working out and being tough now. Oh yeah, that's the spirit. What kind of spirit is that? What kind of spirit is it? So. Yeah. So anyway, I know I'm kind of old already, 41, but at 18 years old, man, I could have just lived off that. I mean, it's a very clean, good feeling, eat vegetables, eating like that. The only thing is, it's bad for your teeth. It's not very good. But I think it's acceptable, because it does, to me, to think of the world that we actually live in. The world is not sunshine and flowers. This is a world where people are being thrown in a prison for 40, 50, 60, 70 years, put in solitary confinement for things they didn't do. It does exist, even though for those people that did do it. That's what human life is. And the reality of the world is, whether you want to believe it or not, human beings are killing each other with firearms and bombs and weapons and swords and all kinds of crazy shit. So to be worried about a fucking animal, to be worrying about any of these things, when the reality is that human beings are already being wasted, seems a little bit selfish. Because you're only thinking of yourself, and you're not really thinking the outside output. But if you're eating vegetables, and you can still be properly prerogative toward your eyesight to those outside, then that's a good thing, because you're eating these vegetables, right? Because that's what you're supposed to be eating anyway. And Subway has a very good price. I get 2 Subways with a BOGO 50 discount, and it's like $11.58. I think it's $11.58. I get 2 Subways. Buy one, get one 50% off. I get the cheapest Subway. I don't put no meat. I occasionally put some vinegar, because I know some vinegar has some benefits. It's Mediterranean, I know, is the healthiest diets out there. It's supposed to be the healthiest Mediterranean food. Where all the boats and ships, and they live on Greece. That's like Mediterranean food. It's supposed to be the absolute best nutritional value. Not nutritional value, but is the healthiest combos, like the great mixtures of different food. And but I thought I'd make a discussion about that. $11.58. You can't beat that price anyway. That's the best price, healthiest food. I just got to find some, I have to drink the water sometimes in the fountain. It'd be better probably to drink some Deja Blue, or some really high quality filtered water, or it's like alkaline water. But it's fine, to drink that water, because you get nutrient water from the vegetables as well. And the key role is the you don't get so much thirsty, because sometimes it's hard to drink a lot of water. So at least you can have it with the meal. And when you drink a lot of water, especially with that, It's also very good for the breakdowns in the stomach. In my opinion, I always thought of this, is I think they could probably make like a super bread that they could put high levels of really, really nutrition. It's already healthy. They got hearty grain, and I always get the Italian herbs and cheese, but they could probably make a bread that is highly nutritional, extremely highly nutritional, where they pack in super vitamins and make it even 10 times even better. And it would be in the bread because all the vegetables has everything it needs, but the bread obviously that has to be pre-cooked, pre-dough, and because to my understanding, in the Jerusalem days, when Jesus ate food, like Jesus ate butter, milk, and they said that the bread that they used to make back then, and the butter that they had, they said that it was like, it's nothing compared to the market we eat now. So when we buy bread and all this stuff, it's nothing. It's like 30% to the value of what they used to eat back in those days when they used to harvest it from the wheat fields and make bread. It had all like huge amounts of values and nutritional value to it. It was very healthy and very good for you. I remember watching a video about it, and it said the bread was very good, and it was also because it's very filling. It goes into your stomach, and it sort of sponges into your stomach. And see, that's another very good thing about bread, and that's why I like Subway as well, is because when you eat something solid as opposed to just eat beans all the time, which is very good, it doesn't strain on the body, is that you at least give your body a chance and a scrub down to the walls of the interiors of the stomach in order to get any gunk out that's not supposed to be there. Like if you ever watch these videos where they tell you do a self-cleansing kit and they tell you to drink lemon and all this other, potion type shit, and then you're like shitting out like jellies and shit of Jello, and you didn't eat any Jello, and they say that, and they take pictures of it and they put it on the camera or on the internet site and says, look, that's what your bowel system looks like because all the pesticides and stuff you ate in your life. I've read some of that stuff where they tell you to eat this certain types of food and then it sponges, and they tell you their technique because it sponges inside the stomach and intestines, and it drags into your body, making it taking all the parasitical, all this stuff that your really body doesn't really need. Well, I've always been a naturalist. There's people back in the Holocaust days that, however those people survived during that situation, lived to be 85, 90 years old. And I've always found that as an inspiration. I've always found that so influencing. How does somebody that was starving to death and did all, besides what they saw, of all the worst things, how can somebody still live to be 85? You think heart damage, liver damage, and so the body can withstand quite a bit of beating, really good beating. Really bad beating, a lot harder than we think it can. But I felt that was important to discuss because I have to be this way, and I probably would always say I've always was like this way. Even when I was a kid, I wouldn't eat the fruit in the cafeteria because I didn't want to eat their shit. And so much of it, everybody knows cafeteria food when you're a kid. At least when we all grew up in the 90s and late 80s, we had the worst food. It was not good. So I always woke up extra early in the morning, and as a kid, starting when I was about in second grade, waking up extra early just to make my own lunch because I rather enjoy something that was healthier. The only thing, every time I ever ate in the cafeteria when I went in line, was only to get the fruit, because I knew that something that they didn't make, it comes from the natural growth of the tree, natural growth of life, of the earth. And so it was solid. And maybe once in a while I'd get applesauce or something like that, but it was always like the peaches or cut up apples, or it was always peaches, and most of the time it's peaches and pears and stuff like that. But it was solid, and it's real fruit. It was fruit nutrient value as opposed to anything else. But I've always been like that, and the reason I am, especially now I have to be, which makes me much more aware, is because I know that I've had a plastic anemia when I was a kid. I very distinctly, being 10, 11 years old, being very clammy in the face and having trouble breathing, and something that I consumed, something that triggered it, where I was not building the blood that I needed. And it finally maybe get to a normal, and that was it. But that would stay at that. And I believe that I was genetically built more for that. It's just, to say someone poisoned me, we want to think that that doesn't happen, but that's not the reality of the world, whether you want to believe it or not. And you don't realize what people are willing to do and say because of who you know or what's going on or what they want to take or what they want to think they want to do for the future or whatever it is that they want to do on a personal note. So, because I think to myself, these sort of cells kind of accumulate and build up, muscle growth. This is why when I was always working out, I was always very paramount to this. I max out, I work out until I get sore, I calculate what amount of pushing and lifting I do that makes me this sore the next day. And how fast is that recovery? How good does it feel? How good do I feel when I'm already sore? And, obviously when you start working out a bunch, you don't even get sore anymore. It's only in the beginning stages for, several months until you build muscle and you just don't get sore anymore. So, and you have to keep lifting more and more and more to keep building muscle. So, I know that aplastic anemia deteriorates the heart, muscles, arteries, the blood veins that go through into the body. There's no telling what damage I could have done to any vital organs. There's no telling of what type of things that could have happened to deteriorated my body. So I have to be more careful, because this is right before I had my transplant. Because now that I had my transplant and I'm all whatever, these transplants, the chemotherapy that hits the liver and hits the body, that sort of toxicity that I put into my body does damage. Remember, I was going to live to be 80 if I never touched drugs or did anything and decently ate healthy, 75 to 80. Well, since I had aplastic anemia and chemotherapy, now it's because you're going to have to knock off at least 15 years off of that, guaranteed. 15 to 20 years. That's even if you ate healthy. Off the expectancy of what you could have lived to what you were given in life genetically. Just the physical growth we're talking of the physical body, right? So because I was doing drugs, I was also doing drugs at late 15 to 16 years old, and that lasted for about 3 years. It was pretty hard drugs. I'd take a break a couple of months. And I would calculate the numbers of times I did, these sort of drugs, and I thought, okay, well, I could put that to the side. I'll just still live to be 80 years old. But, when you don't have the proper blood, when you make a recovery after doing drugs, that does even more damage. So that's like double time. That's like double amount of damage of body that you're doing. And then I finally get my transplant. But luckily, I was eating healthy from 20 to 23. Very healthy. I remember I loaded my fridge with fucking. I think when I first moved in, I bought like close to $400 of fruits and steaks. Like I had all the juices on top of my fridge, fruit, had all kinds of stuff, and it was great to have just for the nutritional part of eating, which I would have liked to have been more into the world of body nutritional, but at least to keep my body alive and drink at least 5 gallons of water within every 7 to 10 days, at least that, just guaranteed to drink that amount. And I would always make sure if I didn't finish it within 10 days, I'd finish it on that 10th day, all of it. And that way, at least I knew that's the amount of fluid that's coming out of my body, circling the toxins out of my body, and getting my blood, good fluid through my blood. My heart doesn't have to pump so strenuous. Just have a really good flow, a good casual pump flow. It's not straining, and when you do work out, it has a good flow to it as well. So, because I'm still up against all the obstacles, genetics that I don't understand, and any damage that I did prior. But I have to be very careful because, at 41 years old, it's better to, it's important for, if I'm going to say I'm going to, hopefully God given, we're not talking about, spiritual, when it's time to leave this world, or God, or angels, or any of that. I'm just talking about just the genetics of what your physical body was given. What did God give you with your genetics? He gave you an extra strong heart, and you don't ever have to worry about heart attacks because you're guaranteed at least until you're 65 to 70 before you have your first heart attack, or you'll never have one. That's what you got. You have a big brain. You're very smart. That's just what you got. Or you're taller. And that's just what you got. That's what you got with your body. And people have to measure that out differently. People that are shorter are known to live longer. People that are over 6'1", 6'2" tend to not live to be 80 years old. I know this because I used to go to nursing homes all the time. So you won't find a whole lot of people that were over 6'5". You won't ever find people like that. You'll find people 6'2", 6'3" here and there, but environmental situations also vary in that as well. But I say that because it's important for it to discuss. I think I'm going to try to stay on this. Well, I'm going to have to because I don't have enough money for it anyway, but to the beans and vegetables, because I do like, sort of having desserts, because I never used to have a dessert. I never ever ate desserts after any kind of meal when I ate at a restaurant because I knew it was toxic, right? But as I got older, once I got into my mid-30s, it was that you start to understand, you eat a meal and you have a full course meal, something to gracious the meal that you ate. And don't miss out on things. You'll miss out a lot on life if that's all you focused on. A lot of the treasures and gold things that you experience are also there as well. An apple pie, special, spicy, cherry mixed apple pie, whatever it may be. So, so taking that into account, I'm at a restaurant. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the day is going to be like. I could have a really bad shit, fucking where they're shooting me electronic devices. My mother's telling she's going to bury me, whatever the fuck, and I get stressed, and I'm already a heavy smoker, and I'm like, I gotta eat this apple pie, or I gotta have this strawberry shortcake, extra whipped cream, because it's sort of to keep my mind on a sort of pleasant situation. But I try to stay on that sort of, try the best. It's very difficult at times, but the sort of disciplinary route of eating healthy and doing that, because I got too many other problems. That shouldn't be one of them. I shouldn't have to worry about it, because the stress is the worst of all things. But at least I know that part of that sort of portion of my existence to keep my body running is taken care of. And that's what gets me usually sort of very frustrated when it comes to the financial situation, because I have to set my food to the side to be, that's guaranteed. Fuck everything else, forgive me, but forget everything else. I have my $1,000 Subway guaranteed right there in my wallet. That's only for food. I can't buy it anything. I have my $1,000 or $700 of guaranteed cash that it's Subway. That's Subway. And Subway, you go to Subway, there's only so many things you can pick that doesn't have any meat in it, and there's just it's a pretty narrow selective menu. So I think that would be very healthy, but that's always a very comfort. My food, whatever it is that I take into my body, I have that part of my food taken care of. That it's a habit. It's a good habit to get to do. So even whenever you fall off the wagon, or when I do here and there, at least I'm sort of trying to fall into those paths, So there's also the ideas that whenever you do sort of not go, fall off the wagon of sort of this sort of routine of eating healthy, is that there's a lot of other stuff that we don't, or at least I don't know enough, that there's nutrient values that, a strawberry cheesecake pie with special butter whipped cream from Italy, you know, with a special edged crust from, you know, Canada, you know, and, you know, whatever it may be, that our bodies don't ever really take. So it's good to have, I think, that sort of elements of a dietary eating system. Obviously, I don't work out, you know, and that's, you know, a big downfall for me. But anyway, at least that part of my body and organs, because I've had liver failure, and you never know what the prognosis of life is going to be. I never know. You know, I've always sort of lived with this whole frightening, you know, situation of, you know, my disease, and whether I was HIV positive or not. They're lying to me, which I still think sometimes I do, but even though the test came up clear, you know, of the death sentence, and you just don't ever know. But at least I'm trying, you know. But it's good to have, you know, because, you know, when you don't have so many, you don't have go out to a restaurant for a long time and eat a dessert, it's very pleasing, you know, like it's very understanding, a settling meal at times, you know. Because I did that before. I've done it, you know, for 4 or 5 months solid at Subway every single day. Then I finally go to like a restaurant and I get, you know, the Cheesecake Factory, and had a burger and fries, and, you know, and I have a really good dessert, and it's a settling meal, kind of, you know. But I never know what my arteries are like, because they can't tell a lot of things, and I try not to get worried about it. So it gets a higher probability of natural cause of death as opposed to necessarily my own fault. Now, I do know it's very weird for me to eat all these vegetables and stuff like that and beans, and here I'm smoking like a pack of cigarettes every 5 days, you know, every 4 days. I finish a pack of cigarettes, you know, and smoking like that. And it's very difficult because the stress of overwhelming things that goes on in my life causes me. But, you know, that's a whole nother story. But at least in that situation, that's why I should have did this before, but I was working on projects so much. But to set $1,000, $700 just on a Subway card, just, you know, it's there. I got my food. I'm not going to dig in the trash cans for food if I'm sleeping on the outside corner of a street, whatever. But I have my Subway food. Like, I have my fruits, I have my vegetables and my sandwiches when I need them. You know, get a Powerade, get a Coke. You know, mix things up a little bit. They do have soda there, right? But, you know, yeah, there are the salads, and they have good breakfasts as well. You know, the eggs, you know, which is very good. So I always have my food source there. I may not have a job to buy new clothes and all this other shit and be broke and traveling, maybe go watching a movie and I'm sleeping outside, but I know my body has the good nutrient value food. That's what it's there. It's there. The food that I need. I don't have to go to a shelter. I don't have to go to a food stamps, because, you know, food stamps is good, but like when you go to these sort of food, it's hard to eat healthy, and I don't think I'm a good candidate for that, in my opinion. It's not that I'm not trying to be grateful. You can be spiritually grateful, and somehow that's, you know, there's so many theories of that. You know, I've heard Dr. Wayne Dyer used to say, he talked to a Holocaust survivor and how he survived, and he said he had a bowl of soup, met a fish skeleton, and he said he would just think of himself the most gracious, unbelievable, grateful you could ever imagine on a simple meal, and that's how he would survive, because he was doing something to his brain or body. I don't know. There's many theories to that, but at least I have my food to the side, and that's primary. Everything else, whether I have to wait 2 more weeks or whatever, but I have my food. It's just I don't have to fucking go work for that. My food's there. Like the bread and the vegetables is there, and it's just up to me, right? Because all the stress is not going to stop. The fucking all this other shit, it did never stop. But at least it's a good repetitive habit to get into, to eat well and good. Because I got all kinds of shit. That's definitely a department that I don't want to have to worry about. because I know that my food's there. Like I'm good, you know, and you know, everything is left up to my body, because the stress doesn't ever stop and everything else is going on, you know. But at least that part I don't have to worry about, which is always the biggest concern to me, because it's like I have a Subway card, I don't have any money on it, and you know I'm broke. You know, I got $500 and I don't got anything. And I got to go get a job, and I would like to be able to do that. And when I get to Rhode Island, that's taken care of. But you know, at least that's always there. You know, the $1,000, it's $800, $700 guaranteed right there. Subway, it's right there. You know, I don't have to worry about anything else. You know, everything else. You know, ain't nothing ever stopped it. You know, the laser beams, the frequencies. You know, that never stopped. But anyway, I guess just making a video.